if you heard Addison just a few seconds ago, this has been extremely helpful for him. And if, let's face it, this dude is so freaking smart that if it's helpful for him, it's got to be helpful for you, right? I mean, sorry, whoever's listening, but this is Amazeys underscore. I mean, just, recognize.
Thank you.
Oh, it's so cute seeing him blush on screen. I'm so glad this is a YouTube show and not a podcast. Everyone gets to see this. All right. Off. Welcome back, everybody, yet again for another episode of the DLF Trade Show, a wonderful YouTube... Man, I should have had another word for show ready in my head, and I didn't. An extravaganza, if you will, for DLF and for trades and just for you. This is for you that's watching right now. This is just for you, so enjoy. I am your host, Russ Fisher at Dynasty Outhouse. Addison Hayes at AmazeHayes _. How are you, Addison?
Fantastic, man. I love doing these trade shows because I think they're really fun. They're insightful. I love hearing your opinions on all this stuff because I feel like I learn something new like every single time that we talk about like one of these players or trades or whatever.
Yeah, and I love that I just got you lower on Devontae Parker last show.
you did.
You're like, no, man, I like Devontae Parker. And then you just see your face sort of like,
I'm actively moving him for 4th round picks. So
yep, there you go. Might as well just drop him at this point.
Yep.
But we are off of Devontae Parker. We are off of Jalen Hurts. We are on to tight ends because tight ends are always interesting. And I said last show, before every show, we talk about Kyle Pitts a little bit. Like, I don't know what's going to happen after he gets drafted. We're just going to have nothing to talk about before the show starts recording. But tight end value in general, draft value in your dynasty leagues and rookie drafts and trade value, it's tough with tight ends because on one hand, there's positional advantage of having those studs, but there's also that live in this dream feel where you're like, I could scoop together 3-4 guys and just start a guy each week that I feel has the better matchup. I've gotten lazy. I'm going to put it right out there. Like it's frustrating to try and do that. It's a lot of work and I'm bad at it, I think is really what it comes down to. Like I never picked the right guy. So while I used to be a person that was never team high-end tight end, I'm there now, and I'm ready for it. And which is why I love that you went with George Kittle because, oh man, go listen to any Trade Addicts pod show for the past maybe 4 weeks, and there will be at least 5 minutes of me ranting about how weird and how wrong it is that people are low on Travis Kelce right now. But still, his trade value is just, it should be better, but we're not talking about
George Kittle. We're talking about George
We're talking about George Kittle. He's one of the other top 3, Kelce, Kittle, Waller. Okay, the league, 14-team Superflex with 1.5 PPR for tight ends. This isn't a Safe Leagues league. And It's not a Trade Addicts league. Yes, we are 10 weeks into this show, and this is the first time it's not a Safe Leagues or Trade Addicts league. Whew, all right. So let's do that one more time where I'm a little less excited about it. 14-team Superflex, 1.5 PPR for tight ends. This trade was made on April 2nd. The trade is George Kittle and the 111 for Justin Jefferson. Walk us through the teams, Addison.
Alrighty. Team A, that's a team that gave up Justin Jefferson for Kittle and the 111. They came in 7th last year after going 7-6. And then they did actually end up winning their toilet bowl for like an extra pot of money. I saw this league looks really awesome. It looks really active. The MFL league is set up very nicely, so it was all very good. So I really enjoyed not having a Safe League or a Trade Addicts league that I could just quickly run through their history. So it was really cool to see that they had the whole playoff bracket with the toilet bowl and everything was nicely laid out, and that's how I knew that they won their toilet bowl. But then looking at their team, I noted that I said that I think that he's trying to make a push because he has all these other skill player pieces. The quarterbacks aren't really there, but he has a bunch of these skill pieces. So quarterback, he has Carson Wentz, Ryan Fitzpatrick, just lost Teddy Bridgewater to Sam Darnold, and then Taysom Hill. Running back, he's got J.K. Dobbins, DeAndre Swift, and then the Packers backfield of Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. Wide receiver, he's got Devontae Adams, Amari Cooper, Cortland Sutton, Marvin Jones, and then at tight end he's got Kittle and Mark Andrews. And I made a note also that I said that why I think that he's trying to make a push is because just a couple weeks ago in middle of March, he traded for Devontae Adams, giving up Darnold, the 108, and the 306 for Devontae Adams and Ryan Fitzpatrick, which I wanted to highlight that because I thought that was a phenomenal trade in of itself.
Phenomenal trade. Seriously, like I've been staring at you're talking. I'm staring at this one line of, man, he pretty much got Adams for Devontae Adams for like the 108, and that's wow.
So,
and if Taysom is the starter for the Saints, because right now we still have no idea. Being able to string between Wentz, Fitzpatrick, and Taysom Hill, that you can string that together with the rest of that team to make a championship team.
Yeah, I also think you could try to figure some stuff out as well too if you want another like different quarterback in that mix as well. But I think he's heading in the right direction for a championship.
Yep.
Team B finished fourth last year after they lost in the semis, and then they lost the consolation game. So big rip to Team B. They have pieces as well, but like last week, I think this is another team that maybe should potentially consider pulling the plug and calling it here. But they have Baker Mayfield and Matt Ryan at quarterback. The running backs are Miles Sanders, David Johnson, Mike Davis, Tony Pollard, a bunch of other no names. Wide receivers now has Justin Jefferson, Keenan Allen, Kenny Golladay, Tyler Lockett, Devontae Parker, and Denzel Mims, and then has Darren Waller and Jonnu Smith at tight end. So it's older. It's got some weird pieces that I think might be on the descent, which is why I said that they might want to consider calling it, because I think they can trade out with all the value that they have now and not like wait a year or two and like half of their assets are now like in the trash.
This is like team 28-year-old. I think half of the people you just listed are actually 28 years old.
Potentially. Yeah.
Man, like that's, yeah. One of the reasons I hate this show is because we look at these teams and we're just like, this guy's rebuilding. This guy should pull the plug. And I'm like, what would I do if I was this guy? Like, I kind of want to go like DM this person and be like, let me help you, man. Let me do this. This looks fun. Like, yeah. Being able to move like Darren Waller in the 1.5, or the fact that this guy's making the push. And I get that having Kittle and Mark Andrews on 1.5 is an okay premium. It's not the biggest thing. I'd be selling Andrews because his name value to me is higher than his production value. But that's not the point of this show. Let's go back and talk about Justin Jefferson for George Kittle and the 111. Whew, that was a lot of talking. Okay, so here is where I'm going to fall into this. This is a 14-team Superflex. So I think we were talking last week and how you made me come around to the fact that I think the 5 quarterbacks are going to be the first 5 picks. I think we can say without a question they will be in this league, because being 14 teams makes it a lot harder than you would think to get a quarterback than it is in a 12 team. I know you're thinking it's just 2 teams, but it's 2 teams that also want to have 3 quarterbacks on their team. Right. So it is much harder to come by quarterbacks. So I mean, I'm not in a 14 team, but I'm in a 16 team Superflex league. It doesn't matter who it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. If there's the chance of them starting in the next 2 years, they're a top pick in the rookie draft. So the 111 actually is a little nicer than it seems. But the question is, does the 111 bridge the gap between George Kittle and Justin Jefferson? I'm going to say yes. And here's why. Like, to me, I think this trade is very fair. I'm completely fine with this trade on its own. You have to come to the acceptance that George Kittle probably isn't playing 17 games next year. You're going to have, he's probably going to be the tight end 2 or 3, but the thing is in points per game, he's going to be missing a couple, and that's honestly completely fine because how well he does when he's playing. Mm-hmm. But it's tight end premium. You could have a league that is like 0.1 tight end premium, and Kittle, Kelsey, Waller, their name value will carry so much more extra value. Even though I think the 0.5 isn't that big of a deal, it doesn't matter. Those words, tight end premium, are there. Kittle's value is not going away. I love Justin Jefferson. I was a fan of him coming in. He has to do a lot to keep his value. Like if he comes in and let's say he does the exact same stat line as he did last year, does he keep his top 3 wide receiver? Probably. Yes. Yeah. But let's say 300 less yards, 3 less touchdowns. He's probably dropping to like wide receiver 9. And that's a big value gap. It's like with the rookies that are coming in this year, and with I'm sure there's going to be one rookie wide. I would love to see a Wookiee wide receiver in the league. Nerd. I think there's I think there's a chance that, and I don't think that it's a big chance, but just to me, there's so much insulation in Kittle and the pick. Not to mention, like the team that you're sort of building right now, that positional advantage, especially in a 14-team league, because again, positional advantage gets greater with the more teams are in the league because there's more teams that have worse than you in that 1Z position. Yeah. So I think the more I talk about it, the more heavily I am on the Kittle and the 111. And I don't want to make it seem like I don't think Justin Jefferson can and probably will do the same thing. But I just think there's less value in a stud wide receiver in a bigger league than there is in a stud tight end. So I think Kittle and the 111, because also 5 wide receivers, 2 running backs are going to go. So you're talking 7 players. Kyle Pitts is going to go probably or in that area also. So you're going to get either the 3rd best running back or a top 3 wide receiver in this draft. So you're still getting, in a very good draft class, a very good player. Like, so you're going to walk away with like Rashad Bateman or Javonte Taylor and feel great. Javonte Williams. Jonathan Taylor, Javonte Williams. And you're going to feel great about it to add that to George Kittle. And because, I mean, look at this J.K. Dobbins, DeAndre Swift, Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, Javonte Williams, Devontae Adams, Amari Cooper, Cortland Sutton, Jamar Chase, Rashad Bateman. Like, you feel good about that. Like, adding those names into that line of players, you feel great. And on the other side, Keenan Allen, Kenny Golladay, Tyler Lockett, Devontae Parker. I need Justin Jefferson in that lineup. Like, so this trade made perfect sense for both teams, assuming Team B is just gonna start pushing away Matt Ryan and the 28-year-olds. If this is the start of a rebuild, it's a great start because you're gonna build around Baker and Justin Jefferson right now. So I love this trade. I'm a very big fan of this trade. I think it works great for both of them, and I think value-wise, it's fair. I think it's very fair.
Yeah, to me, I think the biggest piece of this trade is that 1st round pick, because in a 1.5 tight end premium, Kittle and Justin Jefferson are about the same for me. I think you could replace Justin Jefferson with like any of the top 5 wide receivers, like AJ Brown or Devontae Adams or CeeDee Lamb. And like you could like replace him with any of those and it's still probably the same thing. I pulled up, just for reference, because there might be people out there that might not understand what a 1.5 PPR premium does for tight ends. For reference, Devontae Adams, the wide receiver 1 last year, 25.6 points per game. That's just with 1 PPR because he's not getting the premium. Kelsey, 24.4 points per game last year. Darren Waller had 20.8 points per game. Kittle had 18.6, and Justin Jefferson had 17.1. So if you're telling me that Kittle and Justin Jefferson, when healthy, are both going to score about the same amount of points because of that premium. Like Kittle put up a 46-point week in this league from what I saw in the scoring report. And like just having that ability to kind of do that, not on a weekly basis, but having a game or two to be able to do that, consistently putting up 15 to 20 points per game every single week, I think is a huge advantage in a 14-team league for George Kittle. And that's why I see him kind of close enough to Justin Jefferson that I think the 111, does more than bridge the gap. I think it pushes it farther over on the Kittle side. So that's at least where I'm at with all that, because I do agree, like that 111 is still a very, very solid player. Like you could easily get Javonte Williams. You could get Rashad Bateman or, potentially Devonta Smith. Like you can get Kenneth Gainwell if Gainwell gets solid draft compensation and lands in a favorable spot. Like I think that's a very solid 111. You could even, if I were him, I'd be looking at trying to move up my 111 and getting another quarterback. Like if you can get into the Justin Fields, Mac Jones range and get another quarterback in there, I think I'd really like that as well. Overall, I'm just really in on this Kittle 111 side because I think that is where all the value is.
Hey, Mark Andrews and the 111 for like the 105. Let's do it, man.
Yeah, you can do it because Andrews isn't one of those tight ends that's really benefiting from the premium because he's not a reception guy.
Yep.
So, having Kittle there and outside of two other teams that have Kelsey and Darren Waller, you have a tight end advantage automatically.
Yep.
Your wide receivers are solid. Your running backs are solid. You're going to have that disadvantage at quarterback. I think that's why you need to make a push for a quarterback. Because, if you're going up against a team that is starting Eric Ebron as their best tight end, because he's like the tight end 14, I feel like you're feeling pretty good about that one. And your wide receivers probably beat most other teams with Adams and Amari and Cortland Sutton when he comes back. And, I just really, really like this George Kittle side a lot. But I do agree that if this other team is moving towards a rebuild, what better way to move towards a rebuild than getting Justin Jefferson?
Yep. I mean, now that the more you talk, the more I guess I'm leaning towards your side. It is probably a little bit more in the Kittle value-wise. It's probably more towards the Kittle side, but I stick with I think this is a perfect trade. Usually you do have to pay a little more to get the 1 on the 2-for-1 trade. So again, you're lucky. Okay, let's put it. You're lucky if you send 2 guys for 1 and the trade analyzer says it's even. Like that, to me, you're supposed to be paying a premium to get the better player, and it's not just because you're giving up 2 assets. So everything you're saying makes complete and perfect sense, and yeah, you're right. So let's talk about the analyzer and how the analyzer saw this trade. Now, we need to preface this with tight end premium is not a setting in the trade analyzer yet. Yeah. Asterisk. Yet. Working. Yep. So right now, Justin Jefferson is worth 658.1. George Kittle, 485.2. The 111, 213.7 for a total of 671.0. So the George Kittle side comes in 13 points over, and that's not including tight end premium. Now, if you're asking me, tight end premium, you're probably adding 40% for George Kittle. Yeah. You got to add a lot on top of those top 3 guys to make it worthwhile. So Addison actually is completely correct in that the value should heavily be on the George Kittle side. But I don't care if it's tight end premium. If I'm rebuilding, I'm not building around a tight end. It's just, maybe that's biased. Maybe that's me. I don't know. It's just that the way to do it is you build around wide receivers and quarterbacks in a super flex league. So I if I'm rebuilding, I'm going after Justin Jefferson, and I'm kind of fine paying this because I know Justin Jefferson is good. We had this talk last week about knowing Jalen Hurts can score you fantasy points, and where does that fit in with the draft picks and knowing what you have versus dreaming of what you can get. So I'm completely fine getting a dude that we know is not going to drop out of being a top 10 wide receiver unless, I don't even want to say the words out loud because I don't want to make it my fault if it happens, how bad he would have to be. So this is a great trade for the both of them. But yeah, the value, now that you keep saying it and the analyzer came in at what it is, I think the value does lean a bit heavier on the Kittle side. Whew. Yeah. All right. Do you have any wrapping up thoughts?
No.
I think, you killed that one. Before this, you said that you listen to me talk because then you're learning a thing as we go along. But no, you killed this one. This one was all on you, buddy. Good job. See, I told you.
Thank you.
Well,
yeah, we're good.
We're going to title this one the Addison Blushes the Entire Show episode. But on that note, I am Russ Fisher at Dynasty Outhouse. Addison Hayes at AmazeHayes_. This has been the DLF Trade Show, and we will catch you next time.